Brussels goes quiet before it goes loud. On August 2nd, 2026, a new floor of the European Commission's AI office switches on. 38 fresh case officers assigned to one mandate: enforcement of the AI Act. No ribbon, no summit stage, just servers logging the first formal case files against systems most people have never named. You will not see the moment it happens. The question left hanging over that quiet floor is simple: which government actually holds the leash now? For 2 years, the AI Act existed mostly as a promise, a staggered calendar of dates that companies penciled in and periodically watched slide. So what actually changes when a promise gets a badge and a caseload? The answer sits in a single date, buried under the noise of a much bigger fight over delays. General-purpose AI providers have carried transparency duties since August 2025, documenting training data and testing for systemic risk before release. What arrives now is not a new rule. It is the authority to check that paperwork and to punish the gap between what a company filed and what it actually shipped. Documentation duty is old, enforcement power is new. That distinction sounds procedural until the fine schedule attaches to it. Article 99 of the regulation itself sets the ceiling for the most serious prohibited practice breaches at 35 million euros or 7% of global turnover, whichever figure is larger. Not every part of the act arrives on schedule, though, and knowing which part stalled changes how much risk a given company is actually carrying this month. On November 19, 2025, the European Commission proposed its Digital Omnibus, a package built to ease the load member states said they could not carry into a single deadline. Reuters reported that the plan would push the toughest high-risk obligations, covering hiring tools, credit scoring, and biometric identification, from August 2026 out to December 2027. The delay looked total. It was not. Transparency duties under Article 50 were left untouched by that same omnibus text, meaning chatbot disclosure and deepfake labeling still land on the original date, no matter what happens to the high-risk track. Reuters had already reported the industry pressure behind that kind of reprieve months earlier, when 45 European companies published an open letter asking Brussels for a broader multi-year pause across the whole act, arguing that compliance guidance was still missing as deadlines approached. The Digital Omnibus that eventually followed in November granted only part of that original request. That split matters well beyond Europe's own borders, because the companies now facing labels and audits under the unchanged track are mostly not European at all. Does a European transparency rule actually change behavior inside an engineering team in California or Hangzhou? The next stretch of reporting suggests it already has. The European Commission's own announcement, published July 31, 2026, confirmed that the AI Office and national authorities begin enforcing the AI Act's rules and its new transparency requirements starting August 2nd. Those are the same Article 50 duties this script opened on, now backed for the first time by a body that can actually issue penalties rather than send guidance letters. The paperwork era just ended. Chatbots must now say plainly what they are. Deepfakes must carry a mark a machine can read automatically. None of that requires proving intent behind the omission, only proving that the required label was missing at the moment of publication. Fortune reported on July 31, 2026, that the Commission is expanding its AI office with 38 additional staff, a team built specifically to track companies from newer entrants to the American and Chinese firms already leading the field. That single staffing detail does more work than a page of legal text because it names the two governments that have spent years insisting Brussels rules would never really reach their own national champions. Both were named anyway. European Union Tech Sovereignty Chief Henna Virkkunen framed the launch as a trust exercise rather than a punishment tour, telling reporters the goal was AI that people and businesses could understand and rely on. Trust in this system is now auditable. The same Commission statement listed the systemic risks the new office will track directly: chemical, biological, radiological, and nuclear misuse, loss of control, cyber offense, and harmful manipulation of users. Fortune placed the launch inside a wider pattern already visible that same week: billions of euros in unrelated fines against big tech firms, alongside record new investment in AI infrastructure inside the bloc. The Commission's own coverage pointed at a specific worry behind both threads: a deep reliance on American software providers such as Amazon, Google, and Microsoft for infrastructure. European life increasingly runs on. Regulation, in that framing, doubles as an industrial strategy rather than a purely defensive measure. The floor that switched on in that opening image is not a filing office after all. It is a standing watch for the kind of failure regulators use to only theorize about in academic papers. A second, older document supplies the contrast this narrative needs. On November 24, 2025, the Commission launched its AI Act Whistleblower tool, a confidential channel letting employees at model providers flag violations directly to the AI office itself. The tool worked from day one. What it lacked, initially, was teeth. The Commission's own tool page states plainly that legal protection against employer retaliation under the Whistleblower Directive only extends to AI Act reports from August 2, 2026 onward. For roughly 9 months, an insider could report a violation with certified encryption protecting their identity, but no statutory shield protecting their job. That gap closes now. Line those 3 dates up and the shape of the AI Act stops looking like one deadline and starts looking like a staggered ignition sequence instead. GPAI transparency carried a 12-month gap between duty and consequence, obligated in August 2025 and only enforceable in August 2026. High-risk systems carry a 16-month reprieve of their own, due in August 2026 on paper, but deferred by the Digital Omnibus to December 2027 for the hiring algorithms and credit models named in Annex 3 specifically. Whistleblower protection carried a 9-month gap, with the tool live from November 2025, but the legal shield only attaching in August 2026. Put the 3 side by side and a pattern starts to appear, rather than a coincidence. Brussels keeps moving the compliance deadlines that touch its own company's hiring and lending systems, while holding firm on the deadlines that touch the frontier labs training the largest general-purpose models. The soft dates protect insiders. The hard dates track outsiders. OpenAI and DeepSeek were the 2 names Fortune's reporting attached directly to the new 38-person team, one company built in California and one built in Hangzhou. Different governments, same watch list. Fortune's reporting framed the whole enforcement push as part of a broader tech sovereignty strategy, one that pairs new regulatory reach with an acknowledged reality. The bloc remains a distant third in the AI race behind the United States and China. Regulation becomes a competitive lever precisely because outright competition on model scale is not yet winnable this decade. That is not a contradiction so much as the only lever currently on hand. European AI startups face a different calculus than the frontier labs Washington and Beijing are watching this closely. Compliance costs land hardest on companies without in-house legal teams built for exactly this kind of audit, tilting near-term advantage toward whichever labs can treat an inspection as a rounding error rather than an emergency. Whether Washington and Beijing come to treat that watch list as background noise or as a template worth adapting at home is the open question the remainder of 2026 will start to answer. Market access, unlike a fine, cannot simply be negotiated down or paid off in a settlement. None of this proves Brussels has quietly won a global standard-setting contest outright, and the record so far supports real restraint on that claim. The Digital Omnibus delay is real, and it is not small. 16 months is enough time for an entire annual hiring cycle to run under the older, looser rules before the newer ones formally apply to any given employer. So does a delayed rule still count as a functioning rule at all? 27 member states must each staff a national market surveillance authority, and staffing timelines vary sharply by capital, meaning enforcement intensity will not be uniform across the bloc even after August 2nd arrives. Does a rule enforced unevenly across 24 capitals still function as one law? The Commission's choice to expand its own central office, rather than lean solely on those national capitals, carries a diplomatic cost as well as an administrative one. Fortune's reporting noted that recent antitrust fines on American firms have already drawn public criticism from US President Donald Trump, framing the new enforcement team as an extension of that same friction rather than a separate story. Brussels is picking a fight with Washington at the exact moment it is courting new trade relationships that stretch from South America to the Asia-Pacific. The split the Commission drew between transparency duties and high-risk duties means most companies now face two different clocks rather than one. Treating them as a single deadline is an easy mistake, and the two clocks keep running independently regardless. One date does not fit all. The whistleblower tool's own confidentiality guarantee predates any legal mandate to honor it, meaning its first 9 months of operation rested on commission process rather than on statute. Process is not law. The leash, then, sits jointly in Brussels' AI Office for General-Purpose Models and in each national capital's own regulator for everything classified high-risk, a split authority rather than a single one. That is a far more fragmented picture than the phrase AI Act usually suggests in headlines built for speed rather than precision. The floor in Brussels is still lit. 38 officers, one mandate. The image from the opening was never really about a building at all. It was about the gap between a law existing on paper and a law being actually checked. And that particular gap is what closed on August 2nd. Whether OpenAI, DeepSeek, and the rest choose to build one global compliance standard around the AI Act or maintain a separate European track alongside looser regimes elsewhere is now a live business decision rather than a distant hypothetical one. The paperwork stopped being theoretical the day the case officers logged in. 38 people now decide what that means in practice. Facts over fear.